How do you study with flashcards? Well, first you have to make the flashcards, and there's 3 different types that I want to show you. First, you can draw a picture or print a picture off the internet if you want. So I've drawn a picture of a bunch of different trees, and then on the back I've written the word in the language I want to study. So I'm learning French, so on the back I have 2 different French options to describe a lot of trees, which is why I've written here on this side 2 options. So I've got a bunch of trees, and the 2 options in French are la forêt and le bois. Another option is to just write the word in your first language and then write the direct translation into the language that you're studying. So in English, the word is to notice, and in French, the word is apercevoir. The third option is a little bit more challenging, and it's where you write a word at the top and then a couple of sample sentences or just a phrase. It doesn't have to be 2 whole sentences at the bottom of the card. So in English, it says for duration. I lived in Spain for 8 months. He lived in London for 1 year. So on the back, I've written the translation into French. Pendant, durée. J'ai habité en Espagne pendant 8 mois. Il a habité à Londres pendant un an. And you'll notice on the French side, I've given myself a couple of pronunciation hints. So I've drawn little lines where the words need to connect together. So en Espagne, un an, and then pendant is optional. I could say pendant un an or pendant un an. And then the T on 8 mois, the T is silent there. So I've given myself that little hint on the French side. So first, you make the cards. Second, you study. And the key to studying flashcards is that you ideally are not looking at the side of the card of the language you want to study. So again, my first language is English, so I would look at the English side of the card or the picture side of the card. So I'm not looking at the French side on the back. So I look at the picture and I'm testing myself into French. Okay, so there are 2 options for saying a bunch of trees in French. La forêt and le bois. And then I double check. Yay, I got it right. To notice, well, I just looked at this so I know it's apercevoir. And I check, yay, I got it right. And again, it's more challenging for the longer one. So I'm only looking at the English side of the card and I'm testing myself into French. For, duration. Pendant, durée. See, I almost just forgot. I lived in Spain for 8 months. J'ai habité en Espagne pendant 8 mois. He lived in London for 1 year. Il a habité à Londres pendant un an. And then I check. Yep, I got it. Great. So you study the cards by looking at the side with the picture or the side with your first language, and then you test yourself translating into the language that you are studying. So how do you do this in an effective manner? Well, you'll have a stack of flashcards of things that you have studied, and then you look at the English side or look at the side of your first language, test yourself. And I have a sheet of paper that I like to use to help keep myself organized, and it has 4 quadrants. It has a question mark, it has a no, maybe, and yes. And what I do as I'm going through my stack of cards is I look at the card, I quiz myself. If I got it absolutely right, I put it under yes. If I made one small mistake or it was a bit too, I wasn't quite sure, but I think I got it, then I put it under maybe. If I made a big mistake or I really didn't understand or I'd totally forgotten, I'd put it under no. If I am looking at the card and I realize, wait a second, I have a question for my teacher or my tutor about that. I don't want to memorize this incorrectly before I get some questions answered. I'll put it under question mark. So then after I've gone through my whole stack of flashcards, then I will have them sorted into these 4 categories. So what do I do with these categories? Well, for the question mark cards, I put those to the side, maybe with a rubber band, and put a little note to myself, don't forget to ask my teacher these questions. For the ones that I didn't know, that I had totally forgotten today, then I need to see them again, ideally later today. So if I have time, I'll go through those cards again right now. Then, after I've gone through those cards, very, very soon after my first study session, I'll put those into the maybe pile. So those join the maybe cards. So then all of the cards that I didn't know today, or I made one small mistake on and wasn't 100% sure, or it took me a while to remember under maybe, I want to see those again sooner rather than later. And I like to study 2 days a week. So today is Saturday, so I want to see these again on Wednesday. So for me, I have 2 boxes. I have one that says Saturday, one that says Wednesday. So I will put all of these cards into my Wednesday box because I want to see them again in 4 days. If I knew it today and I think, I don't need to see it for another week, then I will put them into my Saturday box. And if I really knew it, if it was a really easy word for me at this point, maybe I don't even need to see it next Saturday. I'll put it into my larger box. And that's where I put words that I need to see in a month. So I study words every Wednesday, every Saturday, and usually on the first of the month, or close enough. If I miss one day, it's not a big deal. So that is my study routine. You make the cards. You study the cards by looking at your first language or the picture side and then translating into the language that you are studying. And you make sure that you can study them at regular intervals. So again, I study them every 3 or 4 days, once a week, and then about once a month. Because I haven't actually studied for a little while here, and I've noticed that I have forgotten. So I made some of these cards a little while ago, and I don't actually remember them very well. So just because I knew something a few weeks ago doesn't mean that I'm going to remember it today. So the key to language learning is spacing out your study sessions to give yourself time to forget and then study again, and so the word gets more embedded into your long-term memory. Happy language learning.